Unbroken.
What were you thinking? That they'd give you anything. You build them up while they tear you down, but still you never give up. You never give up.
They
No.
wanted something fire as you hope to rise. It was mostly lies that you broke inside. I know it's all love, I just gotta complain. I got your back, we gon' rise to the flames. You'll be at it again.
I won't let go. I'll be by your side. Won't let you drown. I won't let go, and nothing can stop me. Unbroken. The same old story, it drives you crazy. They put you first in line and we're never around, but still you never give up. You never give up, no. Let's rock you down. Step back and throw it all away. There's pain inside. Face it up, throw it all away. I won't let go. I'll be by your side. Won't let you drown. I won't let go, and nothing can stop me.
All your problems and calling you out your name. They walk all over your carcass and chalk it up to the game. They're ripping your heart apart and just tossing it to the flames. And through all of that pain, you are made.
Unbroken.
Don't let them stress you, will shine forever, no never. Catch you slipping, we just sidestep them and sever the ties, the lies, and all of the fears inside. You've always been a friend of mine, so from now to the end of time.
I won't let go. I'll be by your side. Won't let you drown. I won't let go. I'll be by your side. Won't let you drown. I won't let go, and nothing can stop me.
You're laughing at all your brothers and calling you out your name.
Tonight was the go-home show for Backlash in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Tonight, SmackDown was in the very building that Backlash is going to be taking place in tomorrow night. And if tonight is any indication, tomorrow night is going to be a lot of fun, just based off the energy and the atmosphere of that crowd. You know, it's one of those situations where you really realize how important a lively, energetic crowd can be. Because if this were any other building, any other place in the US, any other edition of SmackDown heading into a pay-per-view with your typical average crowd, this would have been a very average go-home episode of SmackDown. But it was a lot more fun because the crowd was amped up for it. And Bad Bunny is one of the reasons why. Bad Bunny is one of the biggest stars in the world right now. He is one of the biggest, really, stars in general, not just musicians, which is why WWE loves to work with him. And he's a huge wrestling fan. And this is not going to be his first match tomorrow night. He's going to be going one-on-one with Damian Priest in a San Juan street fight. We've seen him in a tag team match before, funny enough, with Damian Priest as his partner. But tomorrow night at Backlash, they will be rivals. They will be on opposite sides of the ring. But tonight, Bad Bunny came out at the end of the show and got a massive pop. And really, the reason that they sold this building out weeks and weeks ago with, I think, 17,000 people they're going to have in that Coliseum tomorrow night is because of Bad Bunny. I mean, he's really the one who sold the show. He really is the headline attraction on this pay-per-view and really should be the one who is going on last and headlining the show tomorrow night. But my favorite part of tonight's show actually involved Bad Bunny. And it was when he came out to the ring after the main event tonight to confront Damian Priest in the ring. Bad Bunny was wearing a really cool jacket. Maybe WWE didn't think it was so cool, but Bad Bunny came out, and I don't know how many of you noticed, but he was wearing an old WWF Attitude Racing jacket. See, that's how you know this guy's been a fan for a while, that he's got one of those jackets. WWE got the F out many years ago. Bad Bunny brought the F back in. I'm sure there were a lot of I'm sure there were a lot of people in the back going, oh, I wish he wouldn't have worn that. But I picked up on that right away. I thought that was funny. But he ended up putting on an LWO t-shirt. You know they're selling a lot of those fucking things this weekend. LWO merch, by the way, 3 weeks in a row. Top merch seller in WWE. I'm sure that will continue here for a fourth week. So Bad Bunny was over, as you would expect, on this show. I don't think anybody expected any differently. But we also got some details earlier in the day, and they recounted it again on SmackDown tonight, about the World Heavyweight Championship tournament. And I use air quotes here because is it really a tournament? No, it's not. But they're calling it a tournament. How are we going to crown a new World Heavyweight Champion on Monday Night Raw? Well, now we know. And I'm going to have those details for you in a little bit. Plus, at the end of the review, before we do your Super Chats, I'm going to be going through my Backlash predictions. We're going to run down the card, and I will give predictions for each match on the show tomorrow night. So we got a lot to get into here. I am the Solomonster, and this is your Friday Night SmackDown review for Friday night, May 5th. Oh, it's Cinco de Mayo. That's right. It is Cinco de Mayo 2023. I don't know how some of you are celebrating or what you're drinking, but hopefully wherever you are having a good time. I know we have a few people who are with us in the live chat, actually a couple people, who are at the venue, who are at the building. Apparently there's some dark matches going on there tonight. So that is very cool. Do me a favor and hit that subscribe button if you would. I would sure appreciate that. If you are new here or if you are a lurker, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Also hit the thumbs up. If we get 400 likes on this video tonight, that is the goal, to be the booker a little bit later on. Also, Super Chats, as I mentioned, are open. We'll be hanging out a little bit later on. So if you want to support the channel, you have a question, a comment, get them on in, and we'll hang out a little bit later on, and we'll do the Super Chats. And channel memberships are open as well. If you want to become a member of the Green World Order, GWO. Membership applications are always open for the GW. We have the LWO. Well, here on this channel, we have the GWO. And I got to give a shout out to our boy, Silver Tower. Before I went live tonight, Silver Tower gifted 10 channel memberships. So thank you to Silver Tower. And if you missed it, a brand new episode of Sound Off Gamer, over 90 minutes of Sound Off Gamer. Episode number 5 is now up for everybody, not just channel members. It is up for everybody, so go ahead, and if you have not seen it already, that'll be some viewing material for you this weekend, so I hope you guys will go ahead and check that out. And hopefully my luck is beginning to turn in Sound Off Gamer, because I have gone through the ringer. I've had some bad days, and so hopefully now my luck, like the worm, as they say, the worm is beginning to turn for Solomonster. Let us all hope. Let's talk about the World Heavyweight Championship. There it is. There is Paul Levesque. Triple H was at the Backlash press conference in San Juan earlier today. And you see there, that is the championship that is going to be gifted to the winner of this tournament at Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia. They will have the new age version of Big Gold, I guess you could call it. But they held a press conference, which, again, as I said, is it really a tournament? You'll see what I mean by that in a second. So here's how this is going to work, as far as how they are going to crown a new World Heavyweight Champion. There are going to be 2 triple threat matches on Raw this Monday night. The winners of those 2 triple threat matches will then meet one-on-one at the end of the show. They're going to repeat this again on SmackDown next Friday. Okay, now I want you to keep that in mind. So we got triple threat matches on Raw this Monday. They're going to do the same thing on SmackDown next Friday, with the winners facing off at the end of the night. And then those 2 finalists are going to have a match May 27th in Saudi Arabia at Night of Champions to crown the very first ever World Heavyweight Champion for Monday Night Raw. You know what I think that belt, now that I'm staring at it like this, and I'm not saying the belt looks bad. I mean, clearly it's an homage to Big Gold, and Big Gold was always a favorite of mine. But as I look at this belt, you know what this belt is missing? That globe behind the logo should have some blue. I think it would look even better if it had blue in the globe. That's what I think. It's too plain. It's like the Intercontinental title. That's what that belt is missing. So that is how they're going to crown this World Heavyweight Champion. Roman Reigns is not allowed to participate in this tournament, nor should he be. The entire point of even doing this in the first place is because Roman Reigns has 2 belts that they don't want to take away from him, so they had to create a third one. That's what got us into this mess in the first place. So Paul Heyman made it very clear on Raw Monday night that Roman Reigns, who would look great, he said, in that belt, is not able to compete because he's a SmackDown guy. He's already the undisputed champion, so he will not be in this tournament. But that, again, that makes sense because that's the whole point of even doing this in the first place. What would be the point of Roman Reigns being in this tournament? That would be about as dumb as including SmackDown talent in this tournament. And a lot of people have been pointing this out, and there have been a lot of people who are really twisting themselves into a pretzel to try to defend the WWE booking on this. And, oh, well, you know, you're just complaining for the sake of complaining, and it's really not that big of a deal, and it's going to be great, and blah, blah, blah. The fact is this. This championship was created as a backup, essentially, to the championships that Roman Reigns is walking around with, that nobody can beat him for. Unbeatable for 3 years this man has been, right? Every single challenger he's been in the ring with, he has vanquished, whether it was Sami Zayn, whether it was Kevin Owens, whether it was Cody Rhodes, Daniel Bryan, Cesaro, Braun Strowman. The list goes on and on, right? Logan Paul, Brock Lesnar, all the people that this man has put down. So they had to go ahead and create this new championship, which is brand exclusive. So this title is being designed for Monday Night Raw specifically. And so here we have a situation where you're going to have triple threat matches on SmackDown with SmackDown talent competing in this tournament for a brand specific Raw title. Sounds pretty silly, doesn't it? Well, it sounds silly because it is silly. It is very dumb. And I have to presume that if a SmackDown talent were to win that championship, that talent would be transferred automatically to Monday Night Raw. Now, they haven't stated that, but it would just make sense that that's what they would do because we have a brand split. And they just held a draft. A draft that does not officially go into effect. These new rosters do not go into effect until Monday. Monday just so happens to be the same day that this tournament kicks off. It's the timing of it that makes it so fucking silly. Right? We went through this whole exercise over 2 shows of a draft. May 8th is the official start date, and May 8th is the date that this tournament is starting. And you're going to have superstars from Raw, and you're going to have superstars from SmackDown with what is supposed to be a hard brand split. So that is why people have been making comments and pointing out how silly this all is, because it fucking is. And there's no good defense for it other than just people, they don't like it when people criticize WWE. But, look, when WWE does stupid shit, they deserve to be called out for it. No different than AEW or any other company. It's fucking stupid that you have talent from both shows that are in this thing. Maybe they felt the Raw roster as it is right now was too thin as far as name talents, right? Drew McIntyre is still out with an injury. Cody Rhodes should really not have anything to do at all with this title. So maybe they looked at the Raw roster and they said, shit, we need more names. Let's expand it over to SmackDown. My whole thing is, if this had taken place earlier, right? Or if they had announced who was going to be in this thing prior to the draft or prior to the new rosters going into effect, that at least would make some sense. You could say, well, it was already announced. This thing doesn't go into effect until a certain date. And so, all right, I get that. I understand that. But that's not what happened here. The timing just makes this ridiculous. One thing I will say that it does do, as far as what they're doing, is it does create a week of television next week now where these matches have value. These matches feel like they mean something now. Instead of it just being another week of Raw with a bunch of matches and another week of SmackDown with a bunch of matches, now at least there's something at stake. Anytime you can have something at stake, something of value on the line, It's going to make the television more fun to follow because it doesn't feel like you're just watching a match that doesn't mean anything. So that is one good thing about what they're doing. We don't yet know even who is in any of these triple threat matches. They only announced that they're starting next week. They did not give us any indication of who is actually going to be in these triple threat matches. But I said this earlier today on Twitter as I heard what Triple H was saying, and I was thinking, okay, what do the finals of this thing look like in Saudi Arabia, right? Who is going to go all the way to the finals? And there's a lot of different possibilities. The one that I think is the likeliest, though, Seth Rollins, and I think the consensus is that Seth Rollins would probably be the favorite or should be the one who takes that championship first, but Seth Rollins has to go to the finals. How do you not have Seth Rollins in the finals representing Raw in this tournament, right? Seth Rollins is going to go to the finals. Who is he going to be wrestling? The name that I tweeted out earlier is Solo Sikoa. Now, Seth Rollins and Solo Sikoa had a match on Raw Monday night that had no clean finish. In fact, it had a disqualification finish. Nothing was really settled. The Usos ran in. It got thrown out. So even though they already worked together, there was no resolution. There was no real winner crowned in that match. So that coupled with the fact that you look at what they have done with Solo Sikoa since WrestleMania, they have kept this man super strong on television, and they've done that for a reason. Why have they kept Solo Sikoa so strong? Why has he gotten so much exposure in so many main events on television since WrestleMania? It could all be building to this moment of him going to the finals of this tournament to challenge for that championship. And that's how you get Seth and Sikoa, and this time we get a winner, and Seth Rollins is the one to take that championship to Monday Night Raw. But it would make sense for Solo to be, and I didn't actually think their match on Raw was all that great, to be honest with you. Hopefully they have a better match in them if that is the plan. But storyline-wise, if Roman Reigns can't compete in this tournament, it would be very easy. He's going to be back on TV next week. For him to have a meeting in the back with Solo and say, look, you're our representative in this thing. I already have these two championships, right? I'm the undisputed champion. We have the gold. We need that gold. And it's not Jimmy, it's not Jay, it's going to be you. You're the one who's going to represent the bloodline. You're going to win that title and bring that title to the bloodline, even though if Solo were to win, he likely would end up being transferred to Monday Night Raw. He would no longer be with his family on SmackDown, but it's kind of like, well, the bloodline will have control over all the gold on both brands at that point. So if Roman can't do it, Solo is basically his surrogate. Storyline-wise, you can easily make sense of it. So that's my early prediction. If I had to predict what the final is going to be, I think it's going to be Seth and Solo Sikoa. That's not the match that I want to see. Just from a match standpoint, there's so many better matches they could be doing. I mean, even Seth and Cody, even though I don't want Cody to have anything to do with this, Seth and Cody, with Seth, finally getting one over on Cody Rhodes, Seth and AJ Styles. AJ's a SmackDown guy now, but obviously SmackDown talents in the tournament, but boy, it's been a while since we've seen Rollins and AJ Styles in the ring together, right? There's so many better matches in ring that you could do, but I'm thinking Rollins and Solo Sikoa is the way it's going to go. So anyway, that's the update on the World Heavyweight Championship, which, again, if anybody is listening, please get your paintbrush and put a little blue on that belt. A little blue on the globe can go a long way. Give that belt some color. As John Moxley would say, you got to get color. Only in this case, the color is blue. It's not red. SmackDown opened with a wicked drone shot. Really cool stuff here from outside the arena, outside the venue. And we saw the drone, from the drone's perspective, of course, flying into the arena, through the concourse, out into the arena itself with all the fans. And it was a seamless transition into the animated drone that we see at the beginning of SmackDown every week when they have that on screen and it has the name of the city that they're in. That was very cool, and that's the sort of thing I'd like to see them do more of that. So they were in San Juan. In the same building, they are running for Backlash tomorrow night, so they had a smaller entrance set up. It was not the traditional giant, LED boards and which frankly, I think was much better. There's just the sameness to that. It's nice when they, break away from that and we get a bit of a different, unique look for these buildings. So I like that. And because they're running the same building, and I'm assuming this building also, just in terms of the size of the building, maybe they just couldn't fit the screens and the stage in there. But I thought that this was a better look for it. It made it feel special. So the show kicked off at that point, a red-hot crowd to welcome Rey Mysterio and the LWO. Out to kick things off, they had the LWO logo in Puerto Rican colors tonight on all the shirts. Again, I'm sure they must have sold out of all those shirts tonight. Rey spoke to the crowd in Spanish, and as soon as he mentioned Bad Bunny, the Judgment Day's music hit, and the crowd erupted in boos. Finn Balor, Dominic Mysterio, and Rhea Ripley come out. No Damian Priest. They were saving him for later in the show. Dominic grabbed an LWO shirt from somebody in the crowd as he was walking to the ring, and he ripped it in half. As soon as Dominic got in the ring and started or attempted to speak, as soon as he tried to speak, he was drowned out by boos from this crowd. All he had to do was bring the microphone up to his lips without even saying a word, and they showered this kid in boos. Crowd hated this kid's guts. He also spoke in a little bit of Spanish. He told Rey that he was more of a father to Zelina Vega than he was to him. Rey called him a crybaby in Spanish, and he challenged him to a WrestleMania rematch. Rhea Ripley at that point stepped in the way to go face-to-face or face-to-chest with Rey. And she says she wanted to wrestle Rey herself. Zelina then stepped up to Rhea. Dominic suggested that we could fight the both of you. And Rey agreed, and then Rhea agreed to a mixed tag later in the night, and the crowd popped big for the announcement. So they went to go leave. Dominic then rushed over to his father, got a quick cheap shot in, and then bailed out to the floor. That was perfect. That was the perfect little shit thing for Dominic to do. He's just, it's so easy to boo this kid. So that's exactly what his character would do. So he got a smack in on his dad, and he ran away. One thing I noticed here watching this opening segment, you could not surgically remove the smile from the face of Zelina Vega. It's very important to her. She's talked about this in interviews. As somebody of Puerto Rican descent, to be wrestling in Puerto Rico, let alone for the championship. And so the reaction that they were getting and her standing in the middle of the ring like that, you could just tell how happy she was. Look, as far as the segment goes, any other building, and this would have been your basic opening talking segment. There was nothing really overly special about it. What was special about it was in front of these fans. They were red hot. So this was a fun open. Case in point, Luke Gallows and Karl Anderson, the Good Brothers. They were in action in the opening match here with AJ Styles and Michin against the Viking Raiders, who had Valhalla in their corner. AJ sat in on commentary. And the OC, they introduced a running kick. It's basically a running kick into a Russian leg sweep, where in this case, it was Karl Anderson had one of the Vikings. It might have been Eric. Gallows hits the ropes, comes off with a big boot. At the same time, Anderson takes him down for Russian leg sweep. AJ Styles on commentary, he got all excited. And he said, it's called Brother Me Softly. That's the name of the move. It's called Brother Me Softly. And he said that he came up with the name all by himself. He was very excited about this. Brother Me Softly. He was so excited. After a break, the Vikings had control until Gallows got the hot tag. And it's not often you hear me use those words for a Good Brothers match. The word hot tag. But it was a hot tag. And Karl Anderson tagged out. Gallows came in. He cleaned house. Eric then tagged in. He slammed Gallows. Ivar came off the top, squashed Gallows with a big splash. Had the match won, but Anderson ran in and broke up the pin. Michin took out Valhalla outside the ring with a kick to stop her from constantly interfering in this match. And the Good Brothers hit the Magic Killer on Ivar to win it for the OC. This would have been a basic match anywhere, but not in San Juan. They were big time over in San Juan, were the OC. front of this crowd, they love them some OC. We had the Raw Women's Champion, Bianca Belair, out for a promo in the middle of the ring. Now, she just got drafted to SmackDown, even though she's the Raw Women's Champion. So she came out with the Raw title. Starting next week, though, she will officially be a member of the SmackDown roster. And as soon as she came out and made her entrance, they cut to a commercial. So she was standing out there for 4 minutes until they came back from the break. Michael Cole said that if Bianca wins tomorrow night at Backlash, she's going to be wrestling Io Sky. If she wins tomorrow night, she becomes the longest reigning women's champion in history. I love how they're just ignoring the not-so-fabulous Moolah. Not that I mind. I'm not complaining about that. Moolah was a piece of crap, so I'm fine with that. But it's still just funny to me. Moolah held the title. Where exactly you look at her reign as starting and ending, I guess, is a matter of debate. I think WWE officially recognizes her run up until like 84, maybe. Either way, that would technically be the longest women's championship run in history, but there was no mention of it. But then they cleared it up after the break. When they came back from the break, Cole said that Bianca will become the longest reigning champion of the modern era. So he forgot to put that in there before the break. He made sure he slipped that in the second time. Longest reigning women's champion, he said, of the modern era. And Bianca repeated the same line in her promo. What does that even mean? I would love for them to explain exactly what this means. When they say the modern era, because they've done this with Roman Reigns, right? When do they consider the modern era to begin? Are we talking 5 years ago? 10 years ago, 20 years ago? They never say that. They never explain that. They just said of the modern era. Exactly what is the length that we're talking about here? I'm just curious where they think the modern era begins. Seems to me like they're just hell-bent on refreshing their record books, right? First with Roman, he's going to break 1,000 days in a few weeks. They already call him the longest reigning champion of the modern era. Now, Bianca, when she wins tomorrow night, she's going to be the longest reigning champion of the modern era. I just want to know, where does this era begin? Maybe the beginning of the century, 2000? I guess so. I mean, I guess that would cover it. In the case of Roman, I mean, the Hogan run, that ended in 88. The Moolah run ended a few years before that, so I guess it's not important whether it's 2000 or 95 or 2005. Either way, I guess they would be the longest reigning champions in the last 35 years, 40 years, something like that. So Damage Control interrupted. Bayley cut a promo on their way down to the ring, and Bianca was fighting off all three members once they hit the ring. She went face-to-face with Io when Bayley and Dakota shoved Bianca into Io, and Io went down. Bianca got Bayley up on her shoulders for the KOD, but she saw Io. Now, we couldn't see Io. But clearly, Bianca saw Io setting up for a springboard dropkick. It seemed to me like Io was late in setting up for it. Bianca had to stand there and stare at her, and then she just decided to dump Bayley off her shoulders and then stand there another 2 seconds and wait, and then finally here comes Io with the springboard dropkick to take down Bianca Belair. All three of them then ganged up on Bianca until the women's tag team champions Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, not to be confused with the other women's tag team champions that SmackDown now has, the NXT women's tag team champions, who have said they're bringing their titles to SmackDown. So now, as if we had a need for one set of women's tag team belts, now we're going to have two on the main roster. But in this case, it was Liv and Raquel who came down to make the save. They hit the ring, they fought off Damage Control, and they stood with Bianca in the ring. I thought it was interesting how Bayley and Dakota very clearly shoved Bianca into Io. And I assume, in storyline, Io didn't see it, she didn't know. But they shoved Bianca into Io and knocked Io down, and I don't know that that's going to lead to anything, but it was something I definitely noticed. I would love to see Io Sky win the Raw Women's Championship tomorrow. I think Io is great. I think it's time for her to break out on her own as a babyface. But they love their records. So I don't see it happening. I think Bianca, as she said, once she wins and the clock strikes midnight, she will be the longest reigning women's champion of the modern era. I don't see anything getting in the way of that, which means we're going to end up getting a belt swap. That's what it means. Because either way, if Io Sky were to win the championship, if she shocked the world and she beat Bianca Belair tomorrow night to win the title, we're in the same position no matter what. Because what they would do then is they would transfer Io over to Monday Night Raw. Well, Rhea Ripley is already on Monday Night Raw with the SmackDown Women's title. So it doesn't matter if it's Bianca or Io, right? Either way, whoever that champion is going to be on Raw or is going to have the Raw belt. Let's say if they were on SmackDown, you're going to need a belt swap. There's no other way to do it unless they're going to do a unification. So either way, we're going to have a belt exchange on television probably next week. But next Friday, it's going to be Liv and Raquel defending their tag team titles against Bayley and Dakota Kai. We had a video recap of the Usos challenging Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn for the undisputed tag team titles last week, and Solo Sikoa getting the call in the back from Paul Heyman that Roman Reigns gave him the call. And of course, he tried to come out. He got attacked by Matt Riddle. The Usos went on to lose to Owens and Zayn for a second time. So we're back live in the back, and Solo was shown taping up his thumb. The Usos walked into the room. They asked him if he was ready for their big six-man tag team match against Riddle and Owens and Zayn at Backlash tomorrow night. And Solo didn't respond, and so Jay, who was smiling and laughing and in a good mood, all of a sudden got real serious. And he leaned in to tell Solo, your brother asked you a question. I think it was Jimmy who asked the question. He says, your brother asked you a question. Solo said, I heard you. He says, at Backlash, I'm going to do my part. You better do yours. And he walked away. We had the Street Profits against Ludwig Borga. Jeez, I got my Ludwigs mixed up. Ludwig Borga, Ludwig from Mario Kart. This was Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni Vinci of Imperium, who will be on Raw starting this Monday. Kaiser worked over Ford, who eventually made a comeback and a tag to Angelo Dawkins. He took out Vinci. Ford hit the big frog splash for the win. This was way too short. This didn't even go a full 5 minutes. And Imperium just felt like a total afterthought. Imperium is moving to Raw. I get that, but let's be honest. It's not like Vinci and Kaiser are treated much better any other week. Right? They didn't lose quickly here just because they're moving to the other brand. They're not exactly pushed very hard. So I really hope for their sake they treat these two better on Mondays than they've been treating them on Fridays. We had the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. He was out to the ring next to address the audience one last time before his clash with Brock Lesnar tomorrow night at Backlash. We have Snowdog wants to know what is wrong with Solo Sikoa's thumb that he is taping it up every single week. It's a good question. Maybe his thumb is broken and he's been wrestling with a broken thumb. Now, what happened is they went to him and said, hey, we want you to do the Umaga. And it's funny, Solo actually did an interview with some podcast or some YouTube shows months ago. And he doesn't do very many interviews, but he did an interview and he was asked about that. And it sounded, from what I can remember of his answer, he really was hesitant to do it because he felt like he had his own thing going on and he didn't want to come off as just ripping off Umaga, and that was something Umaga had done. And I guess it was Triple H who said they really wanted him to do it. It was like a tribute to Umaga, basically. The Samoan spike and the taping of the thumb. So it was something they gave to him. It was not anything he asked for or even wanted. But obviously he relented and said, yeah, sure. I don't mind paying tribute to Umaga. So when I see people on social media sometimes ragging on him like, oh, you're not Umaga, you're a discount Umaga, whatever. It wasn't his idea. It was actually the company's idea. And I kind of feel bad in a way because in NXT, he really did a good job of establishing his own thing. Okay? He was the street fighter. What would they call him there? The street something. The street fighter or whatever. And he was doing his own thing. He wasn't ripping anybody off or anything like that. He come to the main roster, and it was after a while they first then started having him tape up the thumb. And for people to rag on him for that, I think is misguided. But Cody came out, and the crowd sang along to his song. They did the whoa. The song played actually twice, so he was able to get the crowd to say the whoa 2 different times here during the playing of the theme song, and they sang along to his song. Thank God for Chris Jericho that he invented such a thing. So he called Brock Lesnar Cowboy, and then he called him Coward. He said that there are a lot of nicknames I can attach to Brock Lesnar's name, but when I think about him, a different name comes to mind. Bork Laser. No, I'm kidding. I will always remember Bork Laser. I know some people don't know what that means. They don't know what Bork Laser is, but look it up. You'll find out what Bork Laser is. I always think of that first. He said, no, the name that came to mind was Gatekeeper. And he said his old coach, Double A, used to tell him that when you made it as a top guy in this industry, you reached the kingdom, which of course is the name of Cody's theme song. And Brock Lesnar is the one looming over that gate, the gate to the kingdom, he said. He said Brock Lesnar picked a fight with him, and Brock has yet to explain why. Maybe tomorrow at Backlash, when he beats it out of him, he'll provide that information. Boy, that would be nice, wouldn't it? It sure would be nice to finally get that explanation from Brock Lesnar. He said he doesn't have time to be afraid of Brock Lesnar. This will be the place that he gets back on the road to finishing the story, to claiming his kingdom, and he did it by defeating Brock Lesnar. He was all fired up at the end of this promo. A lot of fire and passion out of Cody at the end of this. There wasn't much for him to talk about. Because, again, as he said, they never bothered to explain why Brock Lesnar swerved Cody and beat the crap out of him the night after WrestleMania. Well, it's been a month. Brock has barely said a word, let alone given us any sort of explanation. So Cody doesn't have much to go on here other than the fact that Brock Lesnar beat him up that one time. So you send him out there to cut a promo, and there's really only so much the guy can talk about. So given how limited he was in the source material here, I thought he did a fine job. Just explaining why he felt he had to win this match. Now, at the end of this, Michael Cole asked the question, can Cody finish the story tomorrow night? No. No, he cannot. Because the story is not with Brock Lesnar. I'm hoping that was a slip of the tongue by Michael Cole. The story is not Brock Lesnar. The story is Roman Reigns. The story is the WWE Championship. That is the story. Brock Lesnar is not the story. Brock Lesnar is meant to be an obstacle on the road, or the roads, to where Cody is headed. But that is not the story. And they better not try to pretend otherwise, like we're a bunch of fucking morons. Cody made it very clear in his promo, which is why I'm thinking maybe Michael Cole just slipped. Because in his promo, Cody made it very clear that I have to beat Brock Lesnar. Beating him will put me on the path to finishing the story. It is not in and of itself the story or the end of the story. And I'll tell you one other thing, especially, you watch Cody come out here and the reaction he got. I know it was a hot crowd anyway, but really ever since WrestleMania. And it's been more and more noticeable for me every single week. This match tomorrow night between Cody and Brock, this should be for the championship. And I'm not talking about big gold. This should have been Cody's first title defense coming out of WrestleMania. That was a big mistake. We had Shinsuke Nakamura one-on-one with Karrion Kross. They have been drafted to different brands. So no time for a program between these two. This was one and done. Even though it looked like they were starting a program with them, this was it. This was the one and only time these two were going to be able to face each other in the ring. Nakamura had control early on. Hey, there's Booker T. And he's licking his lips. He's getting ready to order some of that DoorDash tonight, isn't he? Yes, he is. Just like he did the other night during NXT. Nakamura had control early as the action spilled outside. Kross clotheslined the hell out of him. And he ran Nakamura into the ring post. That took us into the commercial break. Back from the break, Kross said Nakamura, he was trash-talking him, shouting at him. He called him the king of trash. And Nakamura responded with a knee to the face. Scarlett got up on the apron. She distracted Nakamura. I mean, to be fair to him, anybody would be distracted by Scarlett jumping up on the apron. That gave Kross the chance to connect with a Saito suplex for a 2 count. Kross went for the cross jacket, but Nakamura countered into an armbar. Kross fought out of it. Nakamura countered into a guillotine. And Kross eventually worked his way out of that as well. Delivered a lariat. And then he took off his elbow pad. Michael Cole said, "Hey, Wade, you know what this means," because, of course, Wade used to have the bull hammer. It's no longer the bull hammer. Now it is the cross hammer. And he was getting ready for the cross hammer to the back of the head, but Nakamura countered with a knee strike and the Kinshasa. 1, 2, 3. Every time somebody got the pin on this show, the crowd counted along in Spanish. And they counted the 1, 2, 3. That's all she wrote for Karrion Kross. I actually thought, and maybe this isn't saying much, actually it isn't saying much about his run, his second run here on the main roster. I thought that this was Kross's best match since the cage match at Crown Jewel last year with Drew McIntyre. And he hasn't had very many television matches since then. Really, you can count on one hand and probably still have fingers left over how many singles matches Karrion Kross has had since that cage match. He's wrestled Rey Mysterio a couple of times. I think he may have wrestled Madcap Moss once, and that's about it. So not exactly a huge body of work to choose from, but I thought that this was his best match since then. But he just feels, I mean, dead as a doornail. And for his sake, I hope that this roster shakeup is kind to him. I don't see things radically changing for him, but it's the chance for a fresh start with some new opponents for him to work with. But they have to want to do something with him in order for him to actually get pushed and start winning some more matches. So then they aired a video running down all of the new NXT talent headed to SmackDown next week. Grayson Waller, Pretty Deadly, Alba Fire, and Isla Dawn, who were the NXT Women's Tag Team Champions. And Cameron Grimes, to the moon with Cameron Grimes. You guys remember me talking about NXT when I used to do the NXT reviews, talking about Cameron Grimes. He was coming out with that hat on and everything. He was a heel back then, and they slowly turned him into a babyface. So I was a Cameron Grimes fan when he was in NXT, and there he was when they came back live. In the back, he was with Adam Pearce, who welcomed him to SmackDown. Baron Corbin showed up, and he said, "I do know you." He said, "You were the last pick in the draft." And Grimes said, "Well, it's almost like it's worse than not being picked at all, because Corbin wasn't drafted." And Corbin said, "Both shows couldn't agree who wanted me more. So I'm like Brock Lesnar. I'm in the Brock Lesnar category where I can appear on any show at any time." He said Grimes' career will never be relevant, which of course is, I mean, come on. Pot calling the kettle black there. And Grimes challenged him to a match. Adam Pearce made it official for next week. It's funny because if you remember when the Corbin and JBL angle went bust, I had suggested one idea to try to revive it was having JBL bring in Cameron Grimes, or somehow having Cameron Grimes end up, linking up with them, and having Corbin involved, whether they were adversaries or they were on the same side. Maybe they would have turned him into one of these odd couple tag team pairings, but it's just funny that that was one of the ideas I had suggested for Grimes, and now here he is. He's going to be wrestling Baron Corbin in his first match on the main roster next week. It's just good to finally have him on TV. Again, this guy has been stuck doing nothing for so many months. He has not had a match on television since November, and he's not been hurt. He just hasn't wrestled on television since November, and I think even since then he's had one dark match, I think back in February. Other than that, he hasn't worked at all. So it's just finally nice to see him on TV, and he'll have his first win next week, or he better anyway, over Baron Corbin. Now, at this point, I wanted to bring this up because it is actually relevant to somebody who is on the WWE roster. They aired a commercial at this point in the show for a new show. I guess it's a new reality series that Fox is going to be airing called Stars on Mars. I don't know if you guys have heard about this show. I only first heard about it today. I didn't even know this thing existed until today. But there you see Ronda Rousey in the lower left-hand corner there. Ronda Rousey has not wrestled since WrestleMania. And really, she should not have even been in the ring at WrestleMania to begin with, because she's got basically a broken arm, or a broken forearm, that she is still recovering from. Well, Ronda Rousey is going to be on this new show. She will compete in a new competition series. She is among the 12 celebrities who will compete on Fox's Stars on Mars unscripted competition series. And the lineup also includes Lance Armstrong, Marshawn Lynch, Christopher Mintz-Plasse, McLovin. There he is in the lower right-hand corner. That's McLovin from Superbad. Richard Sherman, and then a bunch of other people I don't recognize on this list. It says the show will see the new, or rather will see the crew members live, eat, sleep, strategize, and bond with each other in the same space station. And William Shatner is going to serve as mission control, and the competitors will deal with conditions that will simulate life on Mars. Every time I see Shatner, because he was in the commercial, every time I see Shatner, I have to remind myself, this man is 92 years old. I doubt I'm even going to live to see 92, but if I do, I can only hope to look as good as William Shatner does. But anyway, there you go. That's what Ronda Rousey has been up to, and with any luck, maybe they'll leave her on Mars. The main event was Rey Mysterio and Zelina Vega teaming up to take on Dominic Mysterio and Rhea Ripley. Vega and Ripley started the match. Vega slapped the hell out of her. She tagged in Rey, which meant Dominic had to come in because, of course, we don't have male against female here in WWE. Yes, the JP Reckless, he says the writer's strike already causing problems. Hey, if the longer this writing strike goes on for you, you're going to start to see more shows like that. I'm going to talk about the writer's strike. Somebody sent in an email question about it, so I will talk about the writer's strike on the podcast on Sunday. But Dominic came in. He worked over his dad for a little bit. Rey tagged Vega back in and set up Dominic for the... Oh, boy, look who it is.
Dropping all this money on me. Hey,
Look who it is.
I just want you to know, I think you rock. I don't mean The Rock, A-Rock. You rock. And I just wanted you to know that.
Boom! There it is. Fahad, our boy Fahad, showing up on a Friday night to drop $120 super chat here on this freaking stream. Holy shit. Holy shit. How do you say holy shit in Spanish? I feel like we should say it in Spanish tonight. Fahad. Thank you, sir. You are very kind. You are too kind. And I will be getting to Fahad's super chat and all of your super chats here in just a little bit. Does the writer's strike affect WWE creative? No, it does not. Actually, the writer's strike could be a huge positive for WWE and AEW. And again, I will talk more about why on Sunday, but it is not a negative. It is not going to stop production on their shows. WWE and AEW, first of all, AEW doesn't even have writers. And WWE is a non-union production. So again, it has no immediate impact, negative impact on them. If anything, it could turn out to be a big positive. But that would be the longer the strike goes on for. So Rey set Dominic up for the 619. Ripley, though, I guess Vega was going to go for it. Ripley cut her off. Rhea was working over Zelina after the final ad break. And as Zelina went for a tag, Dominic pulled Rey off the apron. Rhea ran at Vega in the corner. Vega moved. And so Rhea posted herself, shoulder first. And Dominic got put in position for the 619. Ripley stopped him until Vega took her down. Rey went to the top rope. Dominic, though, cut him off, went for the Three Amigos, and Rey countered the third suplex into a surprise roll-up for the win. Not the most exciting finish in the world, but the crowd loved it. They ate it up. They were very happy to see the LWO pick up the win. After the match, the Judgment Day attacked Ray, including Damian Priest, who just showed up. He didn't get an entrance or anything. There he was. He joined in the gang attack when the match was over. And then we heard Bad Bunny's music to a huge response. Bad Bunny comes out, marches to the ring with the other members of the LWO, wearing his I have to put it back up on screen here, wearing his WWF Attitude Racing jacket. There he is. And the other members of the LWO took out the Judgment Day. Bad Bunny and Damian Priest, meanwhile, they had a stare down. So while everybody was brawling in the ring, Priest is just standing there frozen, staring down at Bad Bunny, who was still on the floor outside. And the Bunny had a kendo stick. He wound up once he got in the ring, but Dominic jumped in. He took the shot, and Priest bailed. And Ray handed Bad Bunny an LWO shirt. He put it on to a huge pop. They're going to sell so many of those. It's like I said earlier. I mean, the LWO merch, they have been WWE's top merch seller now for 3 straight weeks. It's a hot item right now for them. It's amazing how they have breathed new life into what ended up really being a throwaway concept for Eddie in WCW. And it might have gone on for a lot longer. I mean, the reason that the LWO didn't last very long in WCW is because I think Eddie got hurt. So I think the LWO was a thing for maybe 3 months at the most, and then he got hurt and went away, and that was the end of it. So who knows how long that would have gone on for. But the crowd made this show tonight. The crowd was the story. San Juan was the story of the show tonight. And I am very excited for tomorrow because it is going to make for a very fun atmosphere. You take that crowd out of the equation, and you got a pretty average go-home show here. So let's take a look at the Twitter poll. Then we're going to get into the Backlash predictions here. But let's do the Twitter poll first. And again, I just think that score right there is all about San Juan. 83% thumbs up for SmackDown tonight. Only 16% thumbs down. That is by far the best SmackDown score that the show has had in a very long time. But it's amazing. It's amazing how a loud, fun atmosphere can really impact people's opinions of a show. I say it all the time, though. You can underestimate the importance of a crowd, but tonight was a great example of how much more fun a show can feel because of it. Let's talk about Backlash, which is going to be back in that building tomorrow night. I am going to have live coverage of Backlash for those of you who are going to be around. So look for that thumbnail right there, because when Backlash is over tomorrow night, you come here live on YouTube back to the channel, and I will break down everything and have the full review and recap of everything that happens on that show. No Roman Reigns on the pay-per-view. In fact, we haven't seen Roman since the night after WrestleMania. He will not be on the show tomorrow night. He will return on SmackDown next Friday, but he will not be at Backlash. We have Seth Rollins going one-on-one with Omos. Rollins has to be at the top of the list of names to walk away with that World Heavyweight Championship at the end of that tournament. And he should not be losing this close to Night of Champions. I think it would be foolish to beat him. I am picking Seth for the win. The Vince McMahon thing to do would be to have Omos not only beat Rollins, but squash him tomorrow night. And then since Omos is a free agent, because MVP negotiated him being a free agent so he could appear on any show, you have Omos in this tournament, and Omos wins his triple threat match, and then he beats whoever won the other triple threat at the end, let's say, of SmackDown next week. And he goes to Night of Champions, and Seth does the same on Raw, and they have their rematch in Saudi Arabia, and then Seth gets his win back over Omos, and in doing so, he slays the Giant, and he wins the World Heavyweight Championship. That would be the Vince McMahon way of doing it. And don't think that there isn't a decent chance of that happening. There absolutely is. But I am expecting a Rollins win tomorrow. For a match, and again, it's another example. I talked earlier about Brock Lesnar not giving us an explanation on television for why he attacked Cody. And you look at this and the setup to Rollins and Omos, there was no setup. They just announced it. They just announced it. Even on Monday night, they did nothing. There was no interaction whatsoever between Rollins and Omos. You would never even know the match was happening. What is going on since WrestleMania in this company? As much as they protected that bloodline story, and there were so many twists and turns and great character work and great storytelling, it's like they don't give a shit since WrestleMania. They just throw shit at the wall. They throw stuff out there, whether it makes sense or not. We don't have to explain why it's happening. It reeks of Vince McMahon. Because that sort of thing was not happening before. In the 6 months or 8 months that preceded it, we didn't have that. We didn't have things just being thrown out there randomly like that. Reeks of Vince McMahon. We have Austin Theory headed to SmackDown next week with his U.S. title. He's going to be defending the United States Championship in a triple threat match against Bobby Lashley and Bronson Reed. We know Reed is not winning. Bronson Reed is not winning. He was already drafted to Raw. Raw has the Intercontinental title. Bronson Reed has no chance. He's not winning the U.S. title. So it's either Lashley or Theory. Honestly, I don't see what Bobby Lashley gains at this point from winning back the U.S. title, which he's held a bunch of times before, and winning the secondary championship when he should be in line to challenge Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns needs opponents. Roman Reigns needs challengers. If it were me, you set up Roman Reigns and Bobby Lashley for Saudi Arabia at Night of Champions. Because you've got Lashley on SmackDown now, you've got AJ Styles that you can slowly build up, and yes, these men will fall. If you do Lashley in Saudi Arabia, if you do AJ at Money in the Bank, let's say, these men will fall to Roman Reigns. They are just bodies for Roman to beat. As anybody is, at least until Cody gets back in the ring with Roman. And maybe not even then. But at least until Cody gets back into the ring. That's just the way it is. Anybody Roman gets in the ring with, he is going to beat. He is going to slay them. But Bobby Lashley is somebody who has not wrestled Roman Reigns this entire run that Roman has had since he became the champion. And in fact, Bobby Lashley is the last man to pin Roman Reigns clean. Baron Corbin may be the last person to pin Roman Reigns, but he didn't do it clean. The last clean pinfall loss that Roman Reigns took was at Extreme Rules back in 2018, 5 years ago. I think it's coming up on 5 years later this year. That is insane. Just think about that. Roman Reigns has not taken a clean pinfall loss in 5 years. That's all the story really that you need to tell. All Bobby has to go out there is get on the microphone and say, hey, I was the last person to put your shoulders to the mat without anybody's help. I pinned you once before, I could do it again. That's all the setup you need. So Bobby Lashley, I think, has bigger fish to fry than the U.S. title. I think Austin Theory is going to retain his championship. It may be a situation where Bobby Lashley, let's say, puts down Bronson Reed and he gets, thrown out of the ring or something, and Theory goes ahead and he steals the pin. But Austin Theory is going to retain the U.S. title. We had Matt Riddle. Actually, before we get to that, let's talk about the Raw Women's title match. It's going to be Bianca Belair defending the Raw Women's Championship against Io Sky. Much as I would love to see Io Sky take the Raw Women's title, I don't see that happening. Bianca Belair is going to set the record that they were talking about tonight, and she will retain her Raw Women's title. Matt Riddle, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn taking on the Bloodline. That's Solo Sikoa and the Usos in a 6-man tag. It is not winner take all. There are no titles on the line in this match. I think that there is more storyline potential in the Bloodline losing and then Roman Reigns punishing or vowing to punish whoever it was that takes the losing fall in this match. Let's say it's Jimmy, right? Jimmy Uso. And then you have an angle on television where you have Jey Uso stops Roman or Solo. If Roman tells Solo to go ahead and dole out the punishment, Jey Uso steps in and stops them from you know, beating down his brother. Like, I can see it playing out in that way on television after the fact. But I'm picking the Bloodline to win here. I'm predicting a Bloodline win. And the reason I'm predicting a Bloodline win, more than anything, has to do with Solo Sikoa. And the way that he's been pushed and trying to keep him strong heading into this world title tournament. If I'm right, and it's going to be Rollins and Solo Sikoa in the finals at Night of Champions, then their goal is keeping Solo Sikoa strong until May 27th. And one way to do that is to have him not only have the Bloodline win, but have Solo be the one to win the match for the family. And that's how I see it playing out. So I'm picking the Bloodline to win here. We have Rhea Ripley defending the SmackDown Women's Championship, even though she is now on Monday Night Raw, against Zelina Vega. Zelina Vega, very happy to be in Puerto Rico tonight. It's going to be a dream come true for her, I'm sure, tomorrow night. She has no chance in hell of walking out of there with a win over Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley, who just beat Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania to win the championship. And you're going to have Zelina Vega, who is half her size, go in there in her first title defense and beat her for the championship. I don't care if it's Puerto Rico. I don't care if it's the fucking moon. Zelina Vega is not beating Rhea Ripley. Zelina Vega should not beat Rhea Ripley. That would be ridiculous. So Rhea Ripley is going to retain her title. We have Cody Rhodes, one-on-one with the Beast, Brock Lesnar. As I said before, this should have been Cody's first title defense coming out of WrestleMania. Back-to-back losses for him would be very, I'll be nice and say, counterproductive. I think that would be a big mistake. At worst, I think this ends up as a no contest, maybe a disqualification. I'm not necessarily expecting a clean win here. There could be some kind of fluky fuck finish here. At worst, we would get that. But Cody said it on Monday in his promo that if he loses, if he can't beat Brock Lesnar, and he loses at Backlash, he goes to the back of the line. Cody should not be going to the back of the line. So I am predicting a Cody Rhodes win here. Could I see it going the other way? Absolutely. This was maybe the toughest one for me to really think about, because I could absolutely see Brock Lesnar winning this match. If they want to build to a second match, then Brock would win the first one. Or you would have some kind of fluky finish that gives them a reason to, run it back for a second time. I'm going to go with Cody. The thought did occur to me, though. I did have another thought of them having Brock win. And then having Brock and Cody. Because Brock's a free agent, right? So Brock can show up on SmackDown. If he wants to be in one of those triple threat matches, he can be in one of those triple threat matches. As unlikely as it is for me to envision Brock Lesnar even wrestling on television for free, I was thinking about the possibility that Brock wins tomorrow. He works his way into the triple threat match next Friday and wins, and then beats whoever wins the second one. So Brock punches his ticket to Night of Champions to go after the new World Heavyweight title. And you have Cody do the same on Raw, and that's how you get to a Cody and Brock rematch at the end of the month. Only this time Cody wins. I hate that idea. And I hope they don't even consider it, because Cody should not have anything to do with this World Heavyweight title. They may well put him in one of the triple threat matches. I mean, I can understand that, he's one of the top stars on Raw. Why would he not be in there? The story is not with the World Heavyweight title. I don't want to see him involved in this. So that's why I hate that idea. But the thought did occur to me, though. If you wanted to create a reason, how do you get them back in the ring together if Brock beats him the first time? That would be it. You could get them back in the ring in Saudi Arabia by having them go to the finals. And Cody gets his win back, but the story is not the World Heavyweight title. I don't like that idea. Cody goes to Backlash tomorrow night. He beats Brock Lesnar. He gets his ass kicked. Maybe Brock even splits him open. But Cody should get the win. The real main event of this show, though, is not Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar. The match that I believe is going to be headlining is going to be Bad Bunny in his very first singles match, going one-on-one with Damian Priest in a San Juan street fight. Expect the LWO to get involved. Expect the Judgment Day to get involved. It's no disqualification, so there's nothing stopping either of those factions from being involved. I'm sure Dominic will end up taking a big bump in here somewhere. There's no chance that Bad Bunny loses in Puerto Rico. There's no chance. There's more of a chance of Zelina Vega beating Rhea Ripley than there is of Damian Priest, I believe, beating Bad Bunny. It would be like Carlos Colon back in his heyday, you know, being beaten in a big match in Puerto Rico where the fans would, they would riot. Now, this is, of course, 2023. These are WWE crowds now with families and such, and they're not quite as passionate in the way that those old Puerto Rican crowds, I think, would have been back in the 80s, for example, where if somebody won who they didn't like, that person would be lucky to get out of the building alive. I don't think it'll be quite that extreme, but I don't think they'll be very happy at all if Bad Bunny does not get the win here. So it's going to be a good night for Bad Bunny. And I think that's the match that should close out the pay-per-view. And that is your Backlash lineup for tomorrow night. Again, you can vote in the Twitter poll at Solomonster. The poll is up if you have not voted. SmackDown is killing it right now. People seem to love this show tonight. But right now, let's head on over to your Super Chats. Want to hear from you guys. We got a bunch of your messages here to get through. And again, if we hit the goal is 400, which we are still not at. That's very disappointing. You guys are disappointing me. I set the goal very modestly tonight, too. Only 400 likes. We're at 360, so let's get those likes up. We'll be the booker if we hit the goal. Let's kick things off here with... there's Mercedes. There's Mercedes and Tony. Hugging it out on screen. Hey, Lady Fire Panda with a $21 super chat. Although Roman wins basically every match, we must never forget the 4 words that are carved into wrestling's soul. John Cena wins, LOL. Well, it's just Cena wins, not John Cena. Cena wins, LOL. Jackie Fowler with the $24 super chat. Here's an idea. The Bloodline, Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa, and the Usos. Against the Judgment Day, Finn Balor, Damian Priest, JD McDonough, and Dominic Mysterio, with Paul Heyman and Rhea Ripley in their respective corners at Money in the Bank. Well, the Judgment Day is on Raw, and the Bloodline is on SmackDown. While I would like to see the match, it's not going to happen. Although JD McDonough, I talked about him the other night. I think he would be a good fit for the Judgment Day. Certainly has a history with Balor. You know, Balor was basically his mentor. Balor took him under his wing when he was very young. Ross Lawman with the $12 super chat. Can't believe I was the only one to buy all-in tickets and the rest were scalpers. Talk about the chance. Oh boy, yeah, I know. Ross, you were the only one, man. Every other ticket they sold this weekend, if you believe certain idiots on social media, were all scalpers. You're absolutely right. Ross, you were one of the lucky ones. First ever live show, and yes, we'll have Solomonster merch and sign. Hope to meet other Solomonster fans. I hope you enjoyed the show. It's going to be a fun show. I heard from a lot of people who were able to get their tickets. And they're heading, in some cases, heading to the UK for the very first time. I have not been there myself, so you will have a good time. 60,000 tickets plus, already sold without a single match and a single name being announced for that show. This was only the first day, the first official day of tickets being on sale. They already have over 60,000 tickets. That thing has already been a massive success. Naughty Delicious Chicken with Flavor. $5 super chat. I love the fact that the LWO and WWE is very over with the crowds today. They are very over, not just in San Juan. They've been very over since WrestleMania. I smoke a lot of weed with the $4.99. Do you think Eric Young, or like Eric Young, they'll have Dominic Mysterio win the women's tag team titles with Rhea Ripley? Well, he's got the hair for it. Drew McIncock, everybody back to WCW Nitro Crowd Fund. We need 1,000 more to unlock it. Thanks for everything, Solo. Mattel Creations. Yes, they were advertising that. Is it a GoFundMe? I don't know, maybe it's not a GoFundMe, but there's some sort of crowdfunding page for this Mattel project. I think it's like this recreation of the old WCW Monday Nitro set. It looks badass, but I guess they need a certain amount of money more to actually unlock it. So I guess apparently it's $1,000 or whatever it is. So if that's something you think you might be interested in, go ahead and find it. It's the WCW Nitro Mattel Creations. Uffman Entertainment wasn't at the anniversary since the WWE got the F out recently. That was May 5th. That was May 5th of 2002, and I remember that because I think May 6th was a pay-per-view. I want to say May... Now I'm thinking now. Whatever that Sunday was, it was either the 5th or the 6th, was Judgment Day. That was the pay-per-view where The Undertaker beat Hogan for the Undisputed title. But May 5th, 2002. So I guess today, that's right, May 5th. 21 years ago today, WWE got the F out. You are correct. Rodimus Prime, thank you for the $5. Downbag with a $4.99. Karrion Kross either needs a face turn or a different gimmick. Let's bring back the Ninja Turtle mask. Let's not say we did. I always enjoyed Kross. I thought Kross looked his most badass and was at his best when he was dressed up as a like a hitman in Impact. Wasn't he like a bodyguard for somebody? And he had the bald head. He would come out. I think he wore like the white dress shirt with the tie. That's when I thought Karrion Kross honestly was at his best. Winters Paul with the $5. I think Cody wins by DQ after Brock goes crazy. So Cody is not medically cleared the week of the tournament. Cody then beats Brock at Night of Champions in a last man standing match. That would be very clever, honestly, to give them a reason why Cody would not be competing in the tournament next week, because he wasn't medically cleared coming out of the match with Brock. So I think you may be onto something there, and that would then give them a reason to rematch them. It would have nothing to do with the World Heavyweight title, because I would imagine Brock is going to be on that Saudi show. He's on most of it. And if he's going to be on that show, there's really not enough time in the month to build any other opponent for him other than building to a rematch with Cody. So there would need to be a reason for it. And yeah, Cody being beaten so badly that he's out for a couple of weeks, or maybe he's out until Night of Champions. That would be one explanation for why he wouldn't be in the tournament. Hey, Fire Panda, thank you for that Bane super chat, which I will be reading here in a bit. I smoke a lot of weed, says Brother Me Softly sounds sus. It does, doesn't it? It sounds a little sus. But AJ was very excited. AJ of all people, too, was very excited. I hear he's a big fan of one of those communities. I forget which community it was. Devin from NJ, is CM Punk the John Cena of pricks? That's a weird way of saying it. I don't know, I've never met the guy. He can be a little prickly, from what people have said. I don't know if I would call him the John Cena of pricks. By the way, that super chat could be taken multiple ways, so you might want to reconsider asking that question. MH Nova with the $4.99. Your most memorable consolation title wins. Mine are Omega's first New Japan US champion, Cody's first TNT champion, Nakamura winning the US belt after turning heel in 2018. I don't know. I don't know if I look at them as consolation. Consolation title wins? Cody, if he wins the big gold belt. I don't know. I've never really looked at it that way. DEH Sire says Sean Ross Sapp mentioned that he was hearing about renaming the titles leading to Night of Champions on his review shows, the women's title. Well, they should be. They should be. They should be completely blown up, give them a different look. Instead of having the red belt and the blue belt, they should just blow them all up. Give them a new name, give them a new look. I mean, I'd be in favor of all that. Mr. Ruby Dog with $10 super chat. Do you remember the 90s PBS kids show Ghost Rider set in Fort Greene, Brooklyn? Of course I do. I remember the jingle for the show too. Fahad with the $120 super chat. Would have really liked it if we had Rollins and Nakamura in the final in Saudi, but I guess it's impossible now since one finalist will be from SmackDown. Looking forward to the show and the review tomorrow. Yeah, there are better matches than that. You could do Rollins and Nakamura as a final on Raw Monday night. It just won't be at Night of Champions. Brandon Vasquez with the $5. I am enjoying your My Rise journey. Do you think The Lock will finish the story? Or will he get screwed over because he didn't have enough adversity? Yeah, I guess I haven't gone through enough adversity yet in My Rise. Oh, I think The Lock will finish the story all right. People are going to know my name when that's over with. Warhawk Rambo. Do you think the bloodline has jumped the shark? I think the story is starting to get a little long in the tooth. I do. I'm still, enjoying like the Jey Uso stuff and all that, but I felt to me like it peaked at WrestleMania. And when you go past the peak, that's what happens sometimes. Unless you have some really compelling television segments, and the stuff with Sammy and the Bloodline was very entertaining. It was very compelling. When you no longer have that, you don't have anything to replace it with, it feels like you've already peaked with the best stuff. It definitely feels that way to me since WrestleMania. Put it this way, I feel very validated in a lot of what I said in my WrestleMania Night 2. Lady Fire Panda, thank you for the super chat, as always. Rob G, remember when Hogan was number 23 on WWE's top 50? They've come out with so many dumb lists over the years, I barely remember that one. DEH Sires with the $4.99. I would have Cody all bloodied, barely beating Brock, and have Cody be carried on a stretcher. Perfect excuse to not have him be cleared for the World Heavyweight Championship tournament. Well, I agree. Just like we had in the other super chat before, I think that would be a very clever way of him not being in the tournament. Slim Yoshi. Is it safe to say that Damian and Bad Bunny is Damian Priest's WrestleMania match? After all, he was the odd man out last month. It is. He was the one Judgment Day member who did not have a match at WrestleMania. So him, being Puerto Rican himself, being in Puerto Rico in what should be the main event of this show against legitimately one of the biggest stars in entertainment right now, is obviously a huge spot for him to be in. There's a huge spotlight on him. Originally, this was going to be a tag team. This was going to be Rey Mysterio and Bad Bunny against Damian Priest and Dominic Mysterio. That was the original plan. And somewhere along the way in the last few weeks, they came to the decision that Bad Bunny is ready to do a singles match. And there's no need to do a tag match. He'll be all right in singles. And it's a lot of trust that they put in Damian Priest, too, because he's going to be in there working with a celebrity who doesn't have the training, who doesn't have the resume of ever having a singles match before. That's a lot of faith and trust that they're putting in Damian Priest. So, yes, this is his WrestleMania. We've got Lady Firepan with another $21 super chat. I have been informed that I am allowed to talk about a certain tall wrestler tonight and tomorrow, so I am calling it now Omos wins, LOL. Silver Tower with a $22 super chat. There's Solo Hogan. With 100% less racism. Jeremy Watley with the $5 super chat. Hey, Jeremy. What's going on, Jeremy? Thank you very much. Well, the Coog says, well, the rubber chicken be thrown tomorrow night. The Rubber Chicken might do a run-in and actually cost Cody the match. Jeremy Watley, Damage Control are very talented but don't mesh. I would have loved Toxic Attraction with Mandy in that spot. Sorry, Mandy got fired. She improved greatly. She did get better. I think people were going a little overboard with the praise as far as how much better she was. I mean, they made it sound like, you know, she was having matches like fucking Sasha Banks and, you know, Charlotte Flair in there and Tam Nakano and Julia. I mean, she wasn't that good. She had improved. You know, she was... I mean, really, I mean, she as the champion for 200 and something days there in NXT, I mean, she really solidified herself as a dominant champion. Her matches were better over time, but had she been called up to the main roster, I do think that she would have been exposed as not being quite as good as people were making her out to be. But she didn't have to go in there and be, you know, a technical wizard. I mean, she was all about sex appeal. That's all Toxic Attraction was. I mean, just the way they shot them on television, it was all about sex appeal. It was all about, you know, the TNA aspect. It wasn't really about her work. You know, that wasn't what they were focusing on. Boots with the $5 super chat. It might be the booze talking. It is, I'm sure, the booze talking. But if AEW were in San Juan, Puerto Rico, I would like to think that MJF would sing En mi viejo San Juan. He is very talented. I'll tell you what, if MJF were in Puerto Rico cutting a heel promo, I don't know that he would get out of there alive. K-Dog's Kennel, loving your Sound of Gamer videos. Just curious as to if your baseball bat has come back down from glitching in space. Much love to you always. No, I'm still waiting for it to drop. That was from episode 4. If you want to see one of the weirdest glitches of all time, you watch me trying to bring a baseball bat into the ring and watch what happened to that baseball bat. I'm still waiting for it to reappear. If you think I'm lying when I complain about how I get fucked over in this game, you need to go back and watch that match. Silver Tower with a $16 super chat from just a couple of minutes ago, plus all those gifted memberships from earlier. Silver Tower, once again, showing his support. I know we had a lot of gifted members about midweek. The gifted memberships are good for 30 days. The hope is that, you know, a good number of those people will convert into recurring channel members on their own, but we had a bunch of gifteds that expired, so it's like, yeah, the number went from here, and then I logged in the next day. I go, holy shit, it was a steep drop. So again, Silver Tower, I appreciate the support very much. Tony Baguette, do you remember the DVDs after WWF changed to WWE when they had to blur out the WWF logo? How did they get away with it tonight? It's not a big deal. If it slips in, if it slips through every now and then, plus it's live television, it's not like they're putting out a DVD that they're selling. They're going to edit that out in post. Believe me, I'm sure. If this ends up on a DVD or on Peacock or something, which eventually it will, I guarantee you they're going to edit that out. Or they're going to blur it, or they're going to do something. It's not a big deal. HBKC83. Why not just have Cody feud with Solo, especially coming off the WrestleMania finish, instead of this Brock feud? Makes too much sense, I guess. Yep. Sure does. Spike Branson. Did you know that Al Snow is a sit-down comedian now? I saw his show last week in Chicago. Didn't like it very much. A sit-down comedian? Is that a thing? I thought they were stand-up comedians. So he's excuse me, he's a sit-down comedian. I've never heard that expression before. I really haven't. I've heard of stand-up comedian. I guess he literally sits down on a stool on stage and he tells jokes. An Arabian Night 2000. all the reports going on. Do you think Drew is leaving? Do I think he leaves? I don't. I think Drew is going to stay in WWE. Too early to know for sure. His contract still has many more months left on it. We're going to see him back on Raw soon. Maybe not until after Night of Champions, but my expectation right now is Drew is going to stay in WWE. Yeah, somebody let me know. Is that a thing? A sit-down comedian? Or is that just his way of describing it? What a weird thing. I'm a sit-down podcaster too, by the way. I'm gonna start calling myself that. Jake Roberts did a comedy show in downtown Brooklyn last night. See, I didn't even know he was in Brooklyn. But yeah, Jake has his one-man show that he does. He takes it on the road. That I know. See, Jake might be a sit-down comedian. Because, Jake, he's an older guy. And I could see him taking a seat on a stool or something like that. I guess he would be a sit-down comedian. Harry Hollycock. What a name. With the $3 super chat, is Karrion Kross doomed to fall down the card even further? He comes across like a mid-card ruthless aggression player. I think he is. I just don't see this draft making much of a difference. I don't see Triple H suddenly pushing him as... It's like, again, those reports about him being the number 2 heel on the internal roster for so many months. It's like, at what point was he ever the number 2 heel? He was never the number 2 anything on that show. And I don't see that changing just because they shook the rosters up. He's staying on SmackDown. So some of the faces around him may have changed. Maybe they'll do something with him and Lashley at some point. Him and AJ, he'll have some new faces to work with. I don't see things being radically different. I really don't. Arabian Night 2000. At Night of Champions. I hope the final is Drew against Seth. And Drew winning the World Heavyweight Championship and turning heel. Then doing the honors for Seth at SummerSlam if he leaves. Well, if he is in dispute with WWE right now in their contract negotiations, they're not putting the championship on him. Although a heel turn, I think, is something that he probably needs. But is he even going to be healthy enough to come back on Monday? That's a stretch. I don't get the sense he's going to be back wrestling this week. So, no, I do not expect him in this tournament. And Dan Richards with the $4. There is no reminder to renew gifted memberships. I got one, but I only use my phone or TV. No email or message. I'll get my own membership after Vegas. Yeah, that's the thing that sucks. I don't think YouTube actually alerts people. Because I got a bunch of messages this week saying, hey, where'd my membership go? I said, YouTube didn't tell you anything? They go, nope. So sometimes you guys have to check, and it sucks because, again, you see people in the chat who have badges next to their name. Some of them have the red skull. Some of them have the yellow skull. The longer you're a channel member, you get the different colored badges. And some people don't like that they lost their badges. But, again, just be aware that if you are gifted, they do expire. It's not a permanent thing. Unless you're, a paying member month to month, then you don't have to worry about it. But apparently a lot of people were unaware, and they woke up and said, where'd my membership go? Hey, Jeremy Watley, thank you for the $2. We got an incoming super chat saying, thanks for reading my super chats today and Wednesday. Thank you. No, thank you. Thank you for sending them in. I appreciate it. We did smash the goal tonight. I wouldn't say smash. We broke the goal. But we did break the goal, so we are going to do Be the Booker here on this SmackDown stream.
Ladies and gentlemen,
speaking of Karrion Kross, there he is.
To Be the Booker.
There he is. There's Karrion Kross. Actually, that image, I want to say, was from his very first night back. He was pointing at his wrist. He was looking at Roman Reigns. He never did get his match with Roman Reigns. And if he gets his match with Roman Reigns now, we all know how that's going to turn out. It's not going to end very well for Mr. Kross. Holy shit. Silver Tower. Oh my God. Silver Tower just gifted 20 memberships. That's in addition to the 10 from earlier. That's 30 memberships in one day. I'm going to stand up for that. I'm standing up right now. I ain't got no pants on, too, but it's a good thing this picture is on screen. There you go. Yes, indeed. Now I'm going to sit back down. All right, let's be the booker. I got to get my bearings about me here, man. I was not expecting that. Holy shit. The GWO has grown by leaps and bounds here. Let's begin with the men's Be the Booker. Tony Khan can book his own Wembley Stadium show. I'm going to book my own Wembley card here. This is Solomonster's Wembley Stadium show. And we begin with Zombie Eddie Kingston. That is a great image. Was that, what match was this? Was this Anarchy in the Arena? This might have been Anarchy in the Arena last year. Tell me that's not a great fucking shot. Zombie Eddie Kingston, the zombie Yankee fan. There he is. Now he's relegated to Ring of Honor. Well, actually, he's got a hernia. That's why he's been out. He's injured. But Eddie Kingston one-on-one with Stone Cold Steve Austin. The Everyman and the Everyman one-on-one. I like it. Imagine the promos between Steve Austin and Eddie Kingston. Just the promos alone. Oh, no. No. Oh. Daddy Warbucks. The $25 Brie Mode Super Chat. But yes, Eddie Kingston and Stone Cold Steve Austin. I like that. I like that as a main event for my Wembley show, or at least maybe a double main event. Brie almost ruined it there. Ruined the moment. All right, on the lady, let's book a women's match here. I need a women's match for my Wembley Stadium show. We got to get some ladies into the stadium. As Pat Sajak in that super chat applies a crossface chicken wing to a contestant that got a little mouthy with him. We begin with Cameron. My favorite match was with Melina and Alicia Fox. She will never live that moment down. You know what? We're gonna try again here. Hold on a second. We're gonna try again. We're gonna get a do-over. We can't let that stand. We cannot have Cameron in this Wembley Stadium match. We begin with Nyla Rose. And it will be Nyla Rose going one-on-one with Lita. For Wembley? I don't think so. Not for Wembley. Not for my big stadium show. We could do a lot better than that. All right, tag team Be the Booker, and then we're done. Let's see what we do. Begin with Best Friends. Trent and Chuck. And it will be Best Friends taking on the Street Profits. What is with this Be the Booker tonight? What is going on here? Best Friends against Street Profits at Wembley Stadium? Are you kidding me? What? No. I need stars. I need names. Not Chuck Taylor. Fuck. Come on, man. Yeah, Dennis, that's the point. It would be a decent match. I'm not looking for a decent match, man. I'm looking for a marquee match. I'm looking for a great match. I blame Cameron. She jinxed the whole thing. As soon as I landed on her, she just fucked the whole thing up. Let's get back to your super chats here. Put me in a better mood. Winter's Paw with the $5 super chat. Why do you think AEW is struggling with their ratings lately in the States? They have to be doing something right to sell out Wembley. What is not clicking? I do think that the NBA stuff has hurt them. I mean, it doesn't explain why, the I think they're down. I want to say it's like 10% maybe or something is the number, maybe from a year ago. So they're down. They're definitely down. Um, you does Punk have something to do with it to a degree? Yes. Although I think people way, way, way overstate the impact that Punk had on the ratings. To hear some people talk, you would think that Dynamite was doing over 1 million every week, even with Punk, and they weren't. But, not having that big marquee babyface name hurts. Bryan Danielson turned heel. Now, Omega, I guess Kenny would be their kind of de facto big babyface name right now. But they're missing more star power at the top of the card. It will be very interesting when Punk comes back to see what those collision numbers are going to look like. Because I just think Saturday night is a terrible night. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. I'm sure the first show is going to do, big numbers. But when you get to week 2, 3, 4, and so on, I'm very, very curious what those collision numbers on Saturday nights are going to look like. And they're going to run into the same issue with preemptions on TNT, just like Rampage has. It's going to be rough. But I just think, it's a lack of star power at the top of the card. I think the storytelling has not been great. It has not been overly compelling for a lot of their stories. The booking, in some cases, has been suspect. And Tony just has to get back to a point where, he's featuring people on the show that people want to see and coming up with interesting stories to involve them in. The Blackpool Combat Club and the Elite is probably the biggest story they have going right now. We're going to get the 4 pillars at Double or Nothing. I can appreciate him putting the focus on all the young talent they have at the top of the card. I think that's good. But there's so much talent that he has that's not being featured or is being featured, and then we don't see them, whether it's a Keith Lee or a Swerve Strickland or the House of Black. I still don't think they're featured enough as they as much as they should be. Malachi. All of those things, I think, play a role. All of them play a role. Because the numbers have been down in the last several weeks. But there has been a lot of sports competition. I don't want to lean on that as an excuse. It's not excusing the fact that they're down, but it doesn't help. When that ends, if Dynamite shoots back up into the upper 900,000 range, or they even have some weeks where they do 1 million, well, then you have your answer. But, the booking has not been great. We've talked about this on the streams. I mean, the booking in a lot of ways has not been great. So that's what happens. Chase some people away. You got to give them a reason to come back. Spike Branson. He sat down the whole set with another comedian and his voice was shot. He told a joke about Marty Jannetty catching a turd in his drink while at a strip club. What is with wrestlers back in the day and fucking shitting in people's drinks and bags and food? The fuck is wrong with these people? Is that just what they did to amuse themselves? I don't get it. Bunch of fucking children. Every time I feel like I hear one of these old guys telling a story, it involves shit in some way. Some guy was taking a shit and he blew up the toilet, or he shat in some guy's sandwich. The fuck is wrong with these people? Daddy Warbucks with that very expertly timed Brie mode super chat from before. $25. Thank you, Daddy Warbucks. Zelina Vega is the GOAT. If WWE played their cards right, they could make her a big-time underdog babyface. If they incorporated her real-life story into her character. She's also back on Twitch, and I thought WWE prohibited it. WWE reached a deal with Twitch where the talent is once again allowed to stream. This happened only a few weeks ago. So that is why she is able to be back on Twitch. Although there were some people who were twitching, I say twitching, even before. I mean, I don't think Dakota Kai and Tegan Knox and them ever stopped. So I don't know why some were allowed to do it and others weren't. And it doesn't have anything to do with them using their real name. That's not a workaround. So that was very weird to me, why some were allowed to and others weren't. But that's why she's back on Twitch. And yeah, I don't think, aside from a video here and there over the years, they've ever really I mean, really addressed it as part of her character and her background on television in any kind of meaningful way. And her father and 9/11 and the tragedy that her family went through. I mean, you don't want to exploit it, so it's not something you want to dwell on. But do I think that could, they could do a better job of positioning her as an underdog babyface? They could. They could. Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, she's going to be in there with Rhea Ripley tomorrow night. Rhea Ripley's a bigger star. There are people who they have in the division who are on the card who are better and who are bigger names than her. It's not like she's going to be the top player. Now she is being featured more. The LWO is the best thing that could have happened to her because the LWO is super over and she gets to be part of it. So she's in a pretty good position right now, I'd say, because the LWO stuff has taken off over the last month. And that's good for Escobar, too. Arabian Night, or do you think Priest can be a main eventer and win the World Heavyweight Championship one day? I do. Yeah, I think he can. Devin from NJ, does Solomon even exist anymore, or are you fully Solomonster at this point? I am fully Solomonster. I have it legally changed. I am the Solomonster. That is who I am. Like when Warrior went to court and he changed his name from Hellwig to Warrior, that's going to be me. Rufus Pancake Patterson. Collision ain't going to be no Saturday morning slam. Well, for their sake, I hope not. I know it's going to be prime time. I'm just saying Saturday night, especially with all the sports competition, it's going to be a tough night. Instantly going to become the most DVR'd show of all the AEW shows. That's my prediction. First show is going to do gangbusters. First show, I'll be live on YouTube covering it. I already know I'm not going to be here the second week. Saturday is going to be a tough night. We'll cover Collision, but it won't be an every week thing necessarily. If there's stuff going on, and then when there's WWE pay-per-views, I don't know what they're going to do. Are they going to still air a show? Are they going to move it to a different night? It's going to be a lot of competition. Hey, Ray, I thought you were already doing that. You were already screaming at Solomonster. Everybody else already does. Near is joining us tonight. Hey, Solomonster, you're the man. Always good to hear from Near. Thank you very much. Near, I hope you're doing well. Thank you, sir. Is Collision taped or live? Collision is going to be live. Collision is going to be like Dynamite. It's going to be 2 hours and live on Saturday nights. They're going to tape Dynamite and Rampage on Wednesdays. Or I'm sorry, tape Rampage the same night that Dynamite airs. And then Saturday nights, they'll air Collision and they'll tape Ring of Honor. So there's no more Dark. AEW Dark and Dark Elevation are both done officially. Because Warner Brothers Discovery wants AEW exclusive to their networks. Ring of Honor is technically a different promotion, so they can get away with throwing that up on Honor Club. But Dark and Dark Elevation are no more. They'll have 2 hours on Wednesday, 1 hour on Friday, 2 hours on Saturday. That's the plan. And I think that All Access show is either over or maybe there's one episode left. It was only a 6-episode season. Hey, Bobby's World. I think Bobby has gifted a handful of memberships tonight as well to some of you folks. So you best be thanking Bobby's World. Bobby's World, thank you. Daddy Warbucks with the $5 super chat. What does that say? I wish. I think that means I wish. I wish there was a wrestling version of Curb Your Enthusiasm. Does Tony Khan play the Larry David role? I feel like he would be a good candidate for the Larry David. Actually, you know what? I take that back. If you're going to have a Curb Your Enthusiasm wrestling version, then Sami Zayn has to be Larry David. Sami Zayn is going to be in the Larry David role. Tony Khan can be to Sammy what Richard Lewis is to Larry on the show. But Sami Zayn has to be the Larry David role. He's too weird not to be. I mean, Tony is weird too in a way, but just Sammy when he speaks, it's just I see Larry David. Dark Elevation commentary was decent. Those rare occasions when I would check Dark, Excalibur and Taz were always funny. It sounded like they were just legitimately out there having fun. But we get to hear them on Dynamite, so it's not like we never get to see them together. And then Paul White, he was doing commentary on Elevation. I think he wants to get back in the ring soon. So, Joshua Lavacek with an incoming $4.99. Do you think the writer's strike also affects WWE storylines? No. The writer's strike will not have any impact on WWE creative at all. I will go a little more in depth on the writer's strike stuff on Sunday in the mailbag. But anybody worried or curious if it's going to have any impact on storylines or anything like that, characters, not at all. It will not affect it at all. Nor did the last writer's strike, which was 15 years ago. That didn't have any impact on them either. And that one, I think, lasted about 4 months. But that had no negative impact on WWE. So thank you guys. We covered a lot of ground tonight. We covered Backlash predictions, so we were able to do that. Again, I'm going to be live tomorrow night. As soon as Backlash is done, you come on back here for the review. And we'll talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Hopefully not a lot of ugly on the show tomorrow night. And then, of course, episode 807 of the podcast will be dropping, as always, on Sunday. One more super chat incoming from Daddy Warbucks. Can we get a Chelsea Green mock-up in a GWO shirt? Chelsea Green World Order for life. I see what you did there. Chelsea Green for... That could be a super chat, maybe. If Steve hears this, maybe that's something Steve wants to mock up. The Chelsea Green World Order. Lady Fire Panda, stand up and prove to us that you have legs, or forever be the man with no pants. I will forever be the man with no pants. I'm not standing up right now. I'll be the man with no pants. I'll be the man with no legs. That's fine. Just gotta leave it up to your imagination. Thank you, Fire Panda. As always, Fire Panda is always welcome on these streams. And Ray had to drop a $20 super chat to say, stand up, daddy. Okay, this is getting weird now. This is getting very weird. All right, now I'm kidding. Ray, thank you. Thank you for the $20. Ray's awesome. Ray's awesome, but this is getting a little weird now, so on that note, maybe I'm a mermaid. You ever think about that? Maybe I don't have legs. Maybe I have a mermaid tail. Don't be discriminating against those mermaids. Fire Panda, thank you. Thank you, Fire Panda. Fire Panda just dropped another $3. Silver Tower has an incoming $30 super chat. Is that going to be Bully the Clown? I think it might be. I think it might be. I think there might be a Bully the Clown coming in. And some of you guys are weirding me out. You know that? There he is. There he is in all his glory. The night is never complete until we see the clown. Silver Tower, you have blown me away tonight with all the support. Thank you very much. Seriously. Near says, you ain't going anywhere. That's right. I'm not going nowhere. And Fire Panda with the $3. Be well. Stay safe. Have yourselves a great weekend. And I will see you back here in less than 24 hours for the Backlash recap. And hey, Rufus Pancake Patterson, standing up for WWE. You want me to stand up for WWE? No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. Fire Panda, the streak lives. I will see you guys tomorrow night. Take care.